Before we continue, please let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel. Tomorrow, we have another special story for you. Bruce Willis left the supermarket, carrying 2 bags. The air was sharp, biting with a chill that promised a cold night ahead. As he walked towards his car, his eyes caught sight of an older vehicle parked in a far corner, looking distinctly out of place. He noticed a woman nearby, seemingly homeless. Living in that car with her baby, who was wrapped in mismatched, thin blankets. The mother, exhaustion etched onto her face, tried to soothe the infant, whose faint cries drifted through the quiet parking lot. What Bruce does next will not only change their lives, but might also leave you speechless. With one hand gripping his shopping bags, he pulled his jacket tighter, bracing against the chilly air. The trees surrounding the parking lot rustled softly, whispering secrets to the gentle breeze. He instinctively adjusted his hood, glancing around, a reflex honed over years in the public eye. He was always observant, rarely hurried. This habit kept him grounded, a shield against the blinding flashes of cameras that so often tried to obscure reality. The day had been long. Yes, but fulfilling. Filming for his new movie had wrapped earlier than expected. Bruce used the extra time for mundane chores, like grabbing dinner, a small attempt to reconnect with the ordinary. He found a strange solace in these simple routines: the hum of the supermarket, the rattle of a shopping cart, the anonymous space of a parking lot. They were a welcome respite from the constant frenzy of fame. Returning to the lot, his attention was drawn again to that old, weathered car in the distance. The windows were fogged, betraying the presence of life within. Clothes, visible through the rear window, fluttered slightly. An unsettling feeling gripped him. He saw the woman again, her own clothes visibly worn, pushing stray shopping carts towards the collection bay. She seemed to be trying to blend in, to disappear, yet her weary, anxious expressions gave her away. Her gaze kept darting back to the car. Bruce's focus sharpened. Could that car actually be her home? The thought struck him, deeply unsettling. The world was full of untold stories, painful ones, and this one felt like it was calling out to him. Bruce approached cautiously, his steps measured, not wanting to startle her. His voice, when he spoke, was low, calm, friendly. He genuinely wanted to understand, maybe even help. "Are you okay?" he asked, keeping a respectful distance. The woman stopped pushing the cart. She glanced at him briefly, warily, her body language screaming distrust and a desire to be left alone. "No, I'm fine," she replied, her tone clipped, cold, though it couldn't entirely hide the tremor of fear beneath. She stepped back, gripping the cart handle tightly, her hurried manner making it clear she wanted the interaction to end. Bruce held his ground, his expression conveying empathy, not intrusion. He was determined, not easily put off, when he sensed someone truly needed help. Still, he saw the wall she put up. She made it clear, without needing more words, that the conversation was over. Bruce nodded slowly, understanding that pushing further would only push her away completely. She didn't offer another word, just turned with quick steps back towards the worn-out car. She opened the door, slipped inside almost automatically, shutting it firmly behind her. Pause. Bruce remained where he stood for a moment, watching her settle into the driver's seat. Then, through the condensation on the window, he saw it clearly, the silhouette of a small baby in her arms, shifting slightly. He blinked, processing the scene. A tightness gripped his chest. A mother and child living in a car in the encroaching cold. He knew, with absolute certainty, he couldn't just walk away. Feeling a heavy weight of compulsion, Bruce turned towards his own car. But the image, the fogged windows, the worn car, the mother, the tiny baby, was seared into his mind. As he slid into his driver's seat, he took one last look towards the far corner of the parking lot. The silhouette was still visible. He closed his eyes for a moment, the gravity of the situation sinking in, cold and stark. Starting the engine, the low rumble filled the silence. He couldn't ignore this. He wouldn't. The following morning, Bruce found himself driving back to the same supermarket. He hadn't been able to shake the image of the woman, Sarah, he'd later learn her name was, pushing carts, her shoulders tense with a burden heavier than groceries. The old car, clothes hanging inside like flags of surrender, haunted his thoughts. He could have ignored it, driven on, forgotten. Most people would have. But something about her quiet desperation, her fierce protection of the child, wouldn't let him go. He parked, not far from where he'd been the day before. Glancing around, he saw the car was still there, huddled in the same corner, windows still fogged. A few meters away, he spotted the woman again. This time, she clutched a small, nearly empty plastic bag. She made her way back to the vehicle, her movements weary but purposeful. Bruce watched as she slipped the bag into the back seat. He reached into his own car. He'd come prepared today, retrieving 2 items he'd brought from home, a fresh bottle of mineral water and a brand new, soft baby blanket, still in its original packaging. He knew he had to be discreet, careful not to make her feel cornered or exposed. He approached the car calmly, quietly placed the water and blanket on the hood where she couldn't miss them, and then retreated to his own vehicle, waiting, watching from a distance. After a few tense minutes, the car door creaked open. The woman peered out, her gaze fixing on the items on the hood. She scanned the parking lot, eyes narrowed, searching, trying to figure out who had left them and why. Bruce waited patiently, giving her space. Finally, summoning her courage, she darted out, snatched the water bottle and the blanket. As she grabbed them, Bruce could see her lips moving, muttering something under her breath. Perhaps a thank you, perhaps a curse. He couldn't tell. She sprinted back into the car, slamming the door shut. Bruce felt a complex mix of relief and frustration. He started his engine and drove away, knowing this small interaction was just the beginning. On the 3rd day, Bruce returned. He watched the woman, Sarah, pushing carts again, her face etched with deeper lines of exhaustion. He waited until she was near her car, then approached, slower this time. His voice was soft, almost a whisper, designed to soothe, not alarm. She stopped, visibly tensing, bracing herself. "Hi," Bruce said gently. "I'm the guy who left the water and the blanket yesterday. I hope it didn't make you feel uncomfortable." She stared at him, those same tired eyes holding his gaze. But this time, beneath the wariness, there was a flicker of curiosity. "Why?" she asked, her tone still cautious, each word heavy, as if suspecting a hidden motive, a debt she couldn't possibly repay. Bruce gave a slight non-committal shrug. He knew situations like this were delicate. Pushing too hard could shatter the fragile possibility of trust. "No reason," he said simply. "Look, I understand if you don't want to talk. I don't want to invade your space." He paused. "You just looked like you could use them." He saw a tiny crack appear in her defensive wall. She mumbled a quiet thank you for the water and blanket. Although she didn't say more, Bruce noticed a slight relaxation in her posture. Still reluctant, still wary, but that brief expression of gratitude felt like progress. He decided not to push further today. He was about to turn back to his car when he heard it. the muffled, unmistakable cry of a baby coming from inside her vehicle. He paused, glancing towards the car, then back at her, but deliberately refrained from asking. The sound clearly distressed the woman. She quickly unlocked the car door, reaching in to soothe the infant, rocking gently. Bruce hesitated again, then asked softly, "Does he need anything for the baby?" The woman looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with exhaustion and unshed tears. Her first instinct, pride, screamed at her to refuse. But Bruce saw the internal conflict warring within her expression. The fierce mother, struggling between pride and the desperate need to protect her child, was wavering. The dam of self-reliance was beginning to crack. She still looked suspicious, deeply so, but she accepted the supplies he offered moments later, a bag containing powdered milk, diapers, and a pack of baby wipes. She muttered another thank you, clutching the items as if they were treasures beyond measure. Bruce nodded, sensing this small gesture of acceptance was a significant breakthrough. He didn't wait for more, just headed towards the supermarket entrance. As she settled the infant, Leo, back in the car, Bruce paused beside her again, offering quiet support. "It's really none of my business," he said, his tone sincere. "But if you need anything else, anything at all, I'll be around." She didn't answer immediately, just stood there, the weight of the world seemingly on her shoulders. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper, yet Bruce felt the immense anguish packed into her words. It wasn't just a statement, it was a silent, desperate cry for help, masked by years of hardship. Bruce realized then with certainty that this was just the beginning. A story was unfolding, one that would inevitably change lives, including his own. He felt a pull, a responsibility. He was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The following day, Bruce returned to the parking lot. The scene was familiar, yet the woman's demeanor felt different. She was standing outside the car, holding the baby, staring into the distance with a look that mingled exhaustion with a profound sense of resignation. Bruce knew he needed to tread carefully. "Hi," he said gently, maintaining a respectful distance. The woman looked up, surprised to see him again. This time, her reaction was less defensive, more tinged with weary curiosity than outright distrust. She replied with a quiet greeting, her voice carrying a question. Bruce offered a small, tentative smile. "Just checking in," he said simply. He gestured towards the curb near her car. "Mind if I sit here for a minute?" he asked, his tone sincere. She hesitated, then gave a slow, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't exactly welcoming, but it wasn't a refusal. It felt like another small step. Bruce sat down, resting his arms on his knees, projecting calm. "You don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable sharing," he began softly. "But could I ask your name?" The woman looked at him, evaluating, for a long moment before answering. "Sarah." "Sarah," Bruce repeated gently. "It's nice to meet you, Sarah. I'm Bruce." He looked towards the baby, now calmer in her arms. "And what's his name?" "Leo," she replied, her voice softening slightly as she looked down at her son. "Leo," Bruce echoed. "That's a strong name. I like it." The simple compliment seemed to thaw something within Sarah. She relaxed fractionally, though her guard remained mostly up. Bruce decided to take a risk, to offer a piece of himself, to bridge the gap. "You know," he said quietly, his gaze distant for a moment, "I've been through some tough things too." He began to speak gently, not about specifics, but about the universal feeling of loss. He explained vaguely that he had lost people who were his entire world, that there were times he didn't think he could keep going. But he had. Somehow he'd managed. It wasn't easy, he admitted, but finding a reason to push forward, finding help, was crucial. Sarah listened silently, her eyes fixed on her baby. Bruce didn't press for a reaction. He just offered the shared vulnerability, hoping it might resonate. Later that night, long after Sarah and Leo had settled into the car for another cold, uncomfortable sleep, Bruce returned. He knew accepting help was often the hardest step. He moved quietly through the deserted parking lot, carrying bags brimming with necessities, baby food, more diapers, hygiene products, even a few soft toys. He placed everything carefully beside the car door, along with a handwritten note. It simply read, "No strings attached, just care. Bruce." The following morning, when Sarah awoke to the chill, she discovered the supplies. A wave of conflicting emotions washed over her. Relief, suspicion, gratitude, shame. She clutched one of the soft toys, her eyes filling with tears. The gesture was simple, yet profound. Part of her wanted to reject it, to cling fiercely to the last vestiges of control she felt she possessed. Another part, the weary, practical mother, knew this was a lifeline she desperately needed. Sarah made a decision. The next day, when Bruce appeared in the parking lot, she called out to him before he could approach. She held up one of the bags he had left. "Thank you," she said, her voice clearer, steadier than before. This means a lot." Bruce smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "I'm glad it helped, Sarah. Really. If you need anything else, just let me know." Sarah hesitated, taking a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I don't usually talk about this," she began, her voice trembling slightly. But she looked at Bruce, truly looked at him, searching his face. She saw empathy there, patience. He simply waited, his expression serious but kind. She knew she was about to share something important, something pivotal in rebuilding trust. "Take your time," he said softly. "I'm here to listen whenever you're ready." Sarah swallowed hard and nodded. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she felt that someone might actually be willing to hear her story without judgment. Her eyes, though still shadowed with pain, held a spark of hope as she looked at Bruce, ready to let the walls down, piece by painful piece. Her story started tumbling out, beginning a year ago. Her husband, David, had died suddenly. Since then, everything had spiraled downwards. Bruce leaned forward slightly, his expression composed but intensely focused. He knew this wasn't going to be easy to hear. Sarah held Leo closer, taking another shaky breath, her eyes gazing into the distance, delving into memories she had desperately tried to bury. Her voice quivered as she recounted the day the police came to her door. David, her Dave, killed in a car accident on his way home from work. The world had simply crumbled beneath her. All she remembered was the numb shock, the meaningless words of the officer, assuring her Dave hadn't suffered. Gone. Just like that. "Afterwards," Sarah continued, her voice gaining a hard edge of bitterness, "everything fell apart. The life insurance, it wasn't enough. Bills piled up. Then Dave's parents." She paused, swallowing hard. "They tried to take Leo from me." Bruce listened intently, his jaw tightening slightly. Sarah nodded slowly, confirming his unspoken question. "They filed for custody, claimed I was emotionally unstable, unfit. And maybe," her voice broke, "maybe they were right. I was a wreck. I couldn't afford a good lawyer. ... Afterwards," Sarah continued, her voice gaining a hard edge of bitterness, "everything fell apart. The life insurance, it wasn't enough. Bills piled up. Then Dave's parents." She paused, swallowing hard. "They tried to take Leo from me." Bruce listened intently, his jaw tightening slightly. Sarah nodded slowly, confirming his unspoken question. They filed for custody, claimed I was emotionally unstable, unfit. And maybe, her voice broke, maybe they were right. I was a wreck. I couldn't afford a good lawyer. Thank you. Fearing she would lose her son, Sarah panicked. I took what savings I had left, packed the car, and just drove, fled to another state. I naively thought it would be temporary, that I'd find work, get back on my feet. Her voice was laced with weary cynicism. I actually found a job at a cafe, started saving a little, felt like maybe I could make it. Then her expression darkened. But a customer, he started harassing me, saying disgusting things. One day, I snapped, yelled at him. She tried to explain the situation to the manager, but he was indifferent. He didn't care, fired me on the spot. Bruce closed his eyes briefly, a knot tightening in his stomach. He could vividly picture the scene, the casual cruelty of it all. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she spoke of the crushing weight of financial struggle, the eviction notice, the car becoming their only refuge. I looked for work, she whispered, but it's almost impossible with Leo. No one wants to hire a mother who might need time off, who can't find reliable. Sarah remained silent, absorbing his words, the simple, powerful validation they offered. She watched Bruce drive away later, her heart a battlefield of hope and ingrained fear. Could she trust this? Trust him? Life had taught her harsh lessons about trusting kindness. Still, as Bruce had left, he'd looked her directly in the eyes, his determination unmistakable. "We'll figure this out together, Sarah," he'd promised. "Just wait here. Give me 20 minutes. I'll be back." He'd gotten up, walked purposefully toward his car, a man on a mission to change her life, and Leo's forever. Inside his car, Bruce immediately pulled out his phone. He started making calls, his voice low but urgent. He knew he had to move fast, leverage the resources he had. He needed to break the cycle for Sarah, give her the fresh start she so desperately deserved. 40 minutes later, engine still warm, Bruce parked his car back at the supermarket. Sarah was sitting in her old car, waiting, her eyes filled with a volatile mix of curiosity and deep-seated skepticism. Bruce got out, approached her, holding a small envelope. He stopped a respectful distance away and held up the envelope. "Sarah," he said calmly, "I have a room for you and Leo. It's a simple motel nearby, but it's clean, it's warm, it's safe. You can rest there tonight, properly rest. Tomorrow," he added, "we'll figure out the next step." Sarah, clutching Leo tightly, stepped out of her car. Her gaze flickered between the envelope and Bruce's face, conflict raging in her eyes. I can't accept this," she stammered. "I don't want charity." "This isn't charity, Sarah," Bruce responded, his voice firm yet gentle. "It's help. We all need help sometimes. I know I have." He met her gaze steadily. "Please, let me do this. For you, for Leo." Sarah hesitated, the sheer exhaustion weighing down her posture. Finally, slowly, she reached out and took the envelope. Inside, she found a room key, a slip of paper with the motel's address, and some cash for food. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat a mixture of overwhelming relief and lingering shame. "Thank you," she finally managed, her voice barely audible. Bruce smiled, a genuine, encouraging smile. "You're welcome." He offered to follow her in his car, just to make sure she arrived safely. The motel room was basic, but to Sarah it felt like a palace. A large bed with clean sheets, a small private bathroom with hot water. The gentle yellow light from the bedside lamp cast a warm, inviting glow. She sat on the edge of the bed, looking at her son, Leo, now sleeping peacefully after a warm bath. Tears started to fall, silent at first, then turning into quiet, shoulder-shaking sobs. Tears of relief, of fear, of hope, all mingled together. It was the first time in so long, months that felt like years, that she felt a true sense of safety. She glanced at the note Bruce had included with the key. Simple words, but they echoed powerfully in her mind. "You're not alone. We're in this together." After ensuring Sarah and Leo were settled, Bruce lingered in his car outside the motel for a few minutes. He stared up at the night sky, the city lights washing out most of the stars. His thoughts raced. Sarah's story, the raw injustice she'd endured, the daily grind of survival she faced. How could he help her rebuild? He knew a warm bed for a night and some cash wasn't enough. She needed stability, a real chance. He picked up his phone again, determination hardening his features. He started making more calls, tapping into his network, leveraging connections built over a long career. "All right," he whispered to himself, "a plan forming. Let's start something real." He typed a message to a close friend, someone involved in community outreach, briefly explaining the situation. No one, he thought fiercely, deserves to go through this alone. Inside the room, Sarah tucked Leo into the clean sheets. The softness, the stark contrast to the rough blankets in the car. She lay down on the real mattress, exhaustion pulling her immediately towards sleep. But just before drifting off, a single thought surfaced, fragile but persistent. Maybe this is a new beginning. As Bruce finally hung up his last call, he glanced towards the lit window of the motel. A determined smile touched his lips. The next step was crucial. He was just getting started. He was going to give Sarah and Leo the life they deserved. The following morning, Bruce woke early, ready to execute his plan. He'd spent hours coordinating, reaching out, brainstorming practical solutions. This wasn't about throwing money at a problem. It was about providing pathways, opening doors. It was about empowerment. His first stop was a community center he had supported in the past. He met with the director, a compassionate, efficient woman he trusted. He explained Sarah's situation, the homelessness, the trauma, the need for short-term housing, social support, and eventually meaningful employment. "She's a fighter," Bruce told the director, "but she's trapped in a vicious cycle. She needs a hand up, not just a handout." The director listened intently, nodding in agreement, promising to help. Bruce thanked her sincerely, making a substantial private donation on his way out, ensuring the center had resources not just for Sarah, but for others facing similar crises. Later that afternoon, Bruce returned to the motel. Sarah opened the door, looking slightly less haunted, a little more rested. Bruce stood there, smiling warmly, folding several shopping bags. "Brought a few things," he said casually. Inside the bags were new practical clothes for both Sarah and Leo, along with essential hygiene items. Sarah invited him in. Leo was playing quietly on the floor with one of the soft toys Bruce had left days earlier. "You don't need to keep thanking me, Sarah," Bruce said gently, preempting her gratitude. He sat down and explained his plan. "I spoke with some people. There's a temporary, safe place for you and Leo to stay at the community center for a few weeks while we get things organized. There are people there who can help with resources, paperwork, everything." He paused, seeing the shock and disbelief on her face. "And," he continued, "they might have leads on job opportunities too." Sarah stared at him, blinking, trying to process it all. It felt unreal, overwhelming. "Why?" she finally asked. her voice trembling slightly. "Why are you doing all this for us?" Bruce met her gaze, his own eyes reflecting a quiet sincerity. "Because I can," he said simply. "Because everyone deserves a chance to start over. If I have the resources, the ability to help, it would feel wrong not to." He accompanied her to the community center later that day. The director greeted them warmly, showing Sarah to a simple but clean and cozy room, complete with a bed and a proper crib for Leo. As Sarah took in her new, temporary surroundings, tears welled up again, but this time they felt different. Less despair, more hope. I don't know how to express what this means," Sarah stammered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know if I can ever repay you." Bruce offered a reassuring smile. "Focus on you and Leo right now, Sarah," he told her. "That's the only repayment needed. Think of this as a starting point, a new chapter." That night, as Sarah gently placed Leo into the safety of his new crib, she felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in over a year, a sense of hope, tentative but real. Outside, Bruce spoke quietly with the director, ensuring all supports were in place. "I want to make sure she gets everything she needs," Bruce emphasized. "Whatever it takes. Time, resources, opportunities, let me know." The director smiled, understanding. "Don't worry, Bruce," she reassured him. "You've given her something incredibly precious, a chance. A real chance." As Bruce left the center, he glanced back at the warm glow emanating from the building. "Okay," he whispered to the night air. "A starting point. But there's still work to do." With the stable base of the community center and the network Bruce had activated, things began to change for Sarah. She secured a part-time job as a receptionist at a small local office. It wasn't just income, it was a vital step in reclaiming her independence and confidence. On her first day, Bruce met her briefly beforehand, offering a reassuring smile. "You'll do great, Sarah," he said. "This is just the beginning." And she did. She entered the office nervously, but was met with kindness from her new colleagues and a supportive manager. Slowly, Sarah began to reconnect with the world, with herself. Small compliments at work about her efficiency or her quiet kindness boosted her spirits. Returning to the center each evening, tired but fulfilled, she finally felt like she was regaining control of her life. One evening, she shared with Bruce that she was considering letting Leo's grandparents, David's parents, visit, cautiously, on her terms. Bruce listened intently, recognizing the immense bravery in her decision. "That's a big step, Sarah," he acknowledged. "It shows how much you've grown. You're in charge now." Weeks turned into a couple of months. One afternoon, Sarah and Bruce sat in a local cafe, sharing coffee, making easy small talk. Sarah looked at Bruce, a smile illuminating her face, reflecting both deep gratitude and a newfound determination. "I want you to know," she said, her voice steady, heartfelt. "One day, I'm going to pay back everything you've done for me, for us." Bruce started to shake his head, to dismiss it, but Sarah continued, her eyes serious, though her smile remained. "No, I mean it. Maybe not with money," she clarified, "but I want to help others one day, like you helped me." Bruce nodded slowly, understanding completely. "That," he said, his own voice filled with warmth, "is the best way to pay it forward, Sarah." That night, as Bruce drove home, he glanced up at the starry sky, clearer now, away from the city center. He realized he hadn't just helped change Sarah's life. She and Leo had changed his too. Encountering them, choosing to act, had reaffirmed something vital within him. He felt a quiet, profound sense of purpose, a gratitude for having been in the right place at the right time and having chosen to do the right thing. Their journey was far from over. Challenges undoubtedly lay ahead. But as Sarah, in her own small apartment now, tucked Leo peacefully into bed that night, she knew she was no longer facing them alone. She felt stronger, equipped, ready, prepared to face the future with courage and, most importantly, with hope. They both carried the quiet certainty that sometimes, even in the darkest moments, light can appear from the most unexpected places, sparked by a simple act of seeing and caring. If you enjoyed this story, we have many more that will warm your heart. If you're interested in reading more inspiring accounts of perseverance, kindness, and hope, just click the screen.